Hello and welcome back to Unleash Your Voice. I'm your host, Priya Sam, and today I have an episode that I've been so excited to record. You probably know this by now, but one of my favorite things about the work I do is watching women grow, evolve, pivot, and create careers that actually feel like them, that they are actually energized by and excited about. And I was thinking a few weeks ago, instead of you always hearing from me, how amazing would it be to hear directly from the women who are out there living it? So today, it's the first of many episodes where I'll be bringing on current and former clients to talk about their real career journeys, the highs, the messy middle, the lessons learned, and yes, how storytelling has played a role along the way. I could not think of a better first guest than someone from my very first cohort of the Unleash program, Sarah Holmes. Sarah is now an account supervisor at Viral Nation, where she manages the Meta account, and she's going to tell you exactly what that means in just a few moments. She is smart, thoughtful, incredibly grounded, and she has built a career that she loves and that is fulfilling. So here is my interview with Sarah Holmes. I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoyed doing it. Sarah, it is so great to have you.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
This is such a full circle moment for me because you were in my first cohort of the Unleash program, the very first one. It was November of 2023. And for everyone listening, there were 4 women in that group. And you're all so special to me, Sarah, because I was so nervous about launching the program for the first time. I think I learned just as much as you did. But since then, you have gone on to have an incredible career. You're an account supervisor at Viral Nation, where you manage the Meta account. So badass. Let's actually start there, because I know we often hear job titles and have no idea what they actually mean in real life. So what does your day-to-day actually look like?
Totally. Okay, so like you said, I work at Viral Nation. I am an account supervisor on the Meta account. So Viral Nation has kind of 3 components. It's a creator agency. So we have the talent side, the tech side, and then the marketing side. I'm on the marketing side, and I work with Facebook, a little bit with Instagram, and then a little bit on the Ray-Ban Meta account as well. So my job essentially day to day is always really different, but my goal is to work with external and internal stakeholders and just make sure that, we're realizing our goals as efficiently, effectively as possible every day.
I love that. I can picture you in boardrooms, leading some of these big meetings. And it's just so inspiring to see how much progress and how much advancement you've had in your career in the last 2 years.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. It's exciting.
Yeah. So what parts of your work would you say energize you the most at this point?
Yeah, I love working with people, and I have really landed in the business of people. So whether it's working with, like I said, clients or the creators themselves or various teams, I love just learning from everyone. And everyone is so brilliant, but so different. And so whether it's working with like a strategist and a strategist brain, or creative and a creative's brain, or the analytics team and learning about the surveys they're running and the tests they're running, I just love coming together and, coming up with really interesting ideas that move the needle.
It totally makes sense hearing all of this, that your job is relationships, because I think that is something that you are just so good at. So is a big part of your job kind of keeping everyone on the same page, and then also guess aligning people around projects and a common mission?
Exactly. So we have campaigns, we have programs, and my job is from, getting briefed in all the way to execution, to reporting, making sure that everybody's on track, everybody's being heard, and yeah, that we're getting things done all together as a team.
Yes, and you are so detail oriented. So all of this is checking the boxes. I'm obsessed.
Love it.
Okay, I want to rewind a little bit, because if you think back 10 years ago and somebody saying to you, hey, in 2026, you're going to be an account supervisor managing major global accounts and influencer marketing and digital strategy, would you have believed them?
I don't know. I think 10 years ago, I really had no clue I didn't even think about the future. I was like, we're we're just chilling. I was, one day at a time. I was in university. I was studying history. And I think I probably thought that I would go on to do something similar to, my parents or my grandparents. And honestly, creator marketing, influencer marketing wasn't really a thing. We had Vine coming out and Instagram was really new. But yeah, it wasn't a thing, and let alone it wasn't a thing that, brands were spending millions and millions of dollars on, spending huge percentages of their marketing budget on the creator economy. And so, yeah, definitely did not think I would be here.
That is such a good point. I didn't even think about that, but your career literally didn't even exist 10 years ago.
That's right. I know.
Wow.
It's wild. And like even now, trying to explain it to my parents, like, no, they're so proud, but still it's so new, which is so exciting.
Yeah, it is so exciting. And I think, something that a lot of us experience is these careers that, like yours, it's not a straight line, right? And it is very different from our parents' generation. A lot of them worked at the same place for their entire careers and retired from the same place that they started at. They didn't have this experience of changing jobs or even like working in careers that just newly existed or came out of an industry that didn't exist before. Like social media wasn't even a thing for them, and it wasn't really even a thing for us when we were young, right? So I think that it's really relevant that you've had like a series of turning points that have led you to where you are today. So what would you say is the biggest turning point in your career?
Yeah, I love this question. So when I started my career, I was working at a really small but fierce agency. And I worked there for a few years. And, the owner, the founder, she taught me everything. She is brilliant and she was my mentor. And then I decided, I wanted to give corporate life a go. And so I moved to a larger agency, and that was huge for me because I had to learn how to kind of stand on my own 2 feet to advocate for myself. I didn't have her in my corner, pushing me forward and giving me these opportunities. And she believed in me, but she wasn't, there holding my hand. It was really up to me. I was on my own, and, you know, I had to decide if I was going to kind of move forward in this business career and corporate and kind of this more masculine setting. And so that was huge. And it really just changed me as a person, not just in my career, but, forced me to not just build confidence, but also learn to communicate, learn to advocate for myself, learn to kind of step into who I wanted to be and honestly fake it till I made it.
Yes. I really appreciate that you just said step into who I want to be, because I think there can be this really limiting belief that sometimes we have as women where we're like, well, this is just how I am, and like that person can get promoted or that person can advocate for themselves, but I can't do that. I don't have that personality. And it's just not true, right? Those are all skills that you can learn. And like the way you phrase that is just like you made this decision about who you wanted to be. And like you said, it's like you don't necessarily all of a sudden make that decision and then the next day you're just, okay, I know how to advocate for myself. It's a lot of getting out of your comfort zone, but you did it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm still doing it. When I was in like the second grade, my teacher called me like the little mouse because I would just never talk. I was so shy. And then when I moved schools in the seventh grade, I decided that I was like, I don't want to be shy. I want to be outgoing. And so now people are always like, oh my gosh, Sarah, like you're such an extrovert. Like, how do you do it? And I just, I, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like forced myself. And I feel like I didn't do it on my own, of course, like all of this mentorship and all of these people that I look up to who are supporting me and cheering me on, they taught me that. They taught me to advocate for myself. And I think that I still get nervous, I'm in a client call and there's 30 people on the call and I have to game time decisions or, have really open and honest conversations. And you just have to keep every day deciding that you're going to keep doing it. And yeah, keep standing up for yourself, keep advocating, keep trying your best, whatever your best is that day.
Yes. And it's always this collection of small steps and actions that end up adding up over time. But that consistency, like you said, of continuing to do it. Do you have any like memories or specific examples of some of the experiences you had earlier on where you had to do that?
So, in one of my first corporate interviews, I had like done a bunch of research and was really excited. And I was looking at the website, and there were only men in the leadership roles on the website. And it freaked me out a little bit. I come from another job where, there were a lot of men in leadership, and I wanted to change. I wanted to lean into like female mentorship. And that's kind of one of my goals in my career is to, surround myself with these mentors and also become one myself. And so I was really proud of myself because I had noticed this, and it came time to ask questions. And the first question I said was, I'm a little bit worried. Like, are there going to be women who I'm going to be able to like work with and learn from? And the company was amazing. Instead of, you know, backing up against the wall, being comfortable, like trying to defend themselves, they said, "Oh, wow, like, thanks for bringing it to our attention. Like, I want you to know that I was being interviewed by two women." And they said, "We are going to be working very closely with you." They told me more about the company and different programs that they have. And then the next day I checked the website and they had updated it to include a bunch of the female leaders. I'm sorry, my phone. But yeah, they had updated the website to include a bunch of the women in leadership, and it was incredible. And that changed everything for me. It built trust because it showed that not only are they listening, but they're also taking action. And yeah, it was an easy yes after that.
Yeah, no kidding. So they had women in leadership, but they weren't on the website.
Yeah, I guess they just had like four of the senior leaders, and they were all older men, and kind of freaked me out.
Yeah. And you're raising a good point too. When companies want to attract top talent, that kind of feedback in an interview process can be really valuable to them because that's something that might have made, let's just say you were deciding between two offers and the other company did have more women in leadership. That actually could have been a deciding factor for
Totally.
you.
Totally.
The other thing I'm always telling people as they're going through interviews is to look for cues. What is the company culture like? What are the people who would be managing you like? What kinds of personality traits do they have? Are those personality traits that you benefit from in a manager? And I think this example of you gave them that feedback and then they made that change right away, it says a lot about the company culture at a place that would do something like that.
Totally. Brilliant. Yes, exactly. It
Yeah.
it no, exactly. It shows that they're willing to listen and learn and grow, and yeah, and are just they want to be the best, and I love that.
Yeah, and they want women like you there, which we love.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love
You
it.
mentioned some of the lessons you learned in your career, like advocating for yourself, speaking up more in meetings. Are there any other lessons that come to mind that you feel like your career has taught you so far?
Yeah, I think two things. One is, yes, advocating for yourself, like toot your own horn. Leadership is busy. They're not noticing all the things you're doing. And so tell people, like, if you're not going to, no one's going to. And I think that was huge for me because I think often as women, we're taught to like stay small and to just do the work and to grind, and then hopefully someone will see you and pick you out of the crowd and recognize that, yeah, you've been working 12-hour days, but they won't, they're busy. And so, yes, speak up, like share your accomplishments, and then share others, like be kind and support, if someone needs something, like help them out, because honestly, they're going to come back and do the same for you, and they're going to remember that. And I think it goes hand in hand with like advocating for yourself, but not having an ego and just knowing that, like, I always say this. I say, everyone here is so smart. I say this to my team. We're all brilliant. We're all here for a reason. So let's just muck in and work hard and support each other, because at the end of the day, we all want success. We all want success for our clients, for our teams. So let's figure out how we can do it together, you know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm just nodding along here because I think that it's interesting. We actually just had this discussion in the Unleash program today around how women are often so good at talking about other people's accomplishments, right? And like you said, highlighting what somebody else did, someone else's success, somebody how someone else contributed, but it's a lot harder for us to talk about our own accomplishments. And one of the things I believe and that I've seen to be, I mean, I'm going to say I know to be true, is that highlighting other people's accomplishments is valuable. And I don't think women need to stop doing that. I think we need to continue doing that and then just add in that layer of talking about your own accomplishments and contributions. And then you kind of have this perfect package where you show collaboration and teamwork and, being able to support others. And then you also highlight your own contributions.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Don't forget about yourself.
Yes. Yeah, and do you find that that has helped you when you've had to have conversations about raises or promotions or new opportunities?
Oh my gosh, yes. Even, a few months ago at my job, things were really, really busy. And, I reached out to my manager, who is honestly just incredible. I'm not just saying that in case she's listening. She is just brilliant. And she really embodies like an ideal manager who listens and then takes action. Because so often I feel like people listen and they acknowledge and then nothing really changes. And then it builds uncertainty, right? But I come to her and I say, I'm feeling like there's a lot going on, I'm a little overwhelmed, like, and I just want you to know how I'm feeling. Like, I didn't even honestly approach it properly. I didn't come with any ideas. I just said, like, help. And she was amazing. Within a few days, we had like an action plan. We hired or onboarded like a new employee to help support. And instead of me building resentment and feeling like, oh, I'm overworked and la la la, we hired someone else and it was incredible. And I was so grateful. And I trust now, my team and the company, and it just changed everything.
That's such a great example of effective advocacy and effective leadership on her side. Like, that's amazing. And if you hadn't said anything, she couldn't have taken action, right? And I think obviously she handled it in the best way possible too.
Oh, totally. That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
And congrats also on because those conversations aren't easy, right? It's not easy to say, "Hey, I need support or I need help." And I know not everyone can do that based on their work environment, but it is such a testament to your like strength too. Because what can happen when we don't have effective management? That's when people leave.
Totally. I
They just
always say, you don't quit your job, you quit your manager.
yes. Very, very true. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I hope it'll encourage, somebody who's listening today too, to maybe be like, okay, maybe I just need to make this ask and let my manager know what I'm experiencing before I burn out. And I'll give them an opportunity to see if they handle it the right way. And if they don't, then you can hit the job boards.
And I've been in both situations,
Yeah.
at an old job. Yeah, I realized that like there was just no longer alignment and I left. At this new job, I saw an opportunity for a promotion and I said to my manager, my senior manager, I said, I'd love to like be able to level up. How do I do that? And they really listened. They set up like goaling and mentorship workshops and we worked on it for 6 months. And then I got the promotion and I know it was amazing. And like, not only did I get the promotion, but I also stepped into the promotion feeling like feeling confident and like I knew what I was doing because I'd gone through all of this training, right? And so I think definitely don't feel like if it's not the right place for you, pivot, like, get out of there. But if it is and you want more, like, speak up, because I think you can really fight for it and do the work, and succeed.
Oh, I'm like bursting over here because that is such a textbook example of, okay, I'm ready for this next thing, asking for like putting it out there, but then also saying like, what do I need to do to get this promotion, to be ready to take on this new level of responsibility and planting those seeds early. I think you said 6 months, right? From when you had the conversation to when you got promoted.
Yes, actually, it was
Yeah.
a little bit under 6 months even. Like, it was,
Amazing.
yeah, it was great.
Yeah. And I think that's a good for anyone listening right now. If you want a promotion this year, now is the time, right? To do what you did, Sarah, and to start planting the seeds, to start asking those questions. What do I need to do? Because different companies work different ways when it comes to promotion cycles and when they happen. But really, 4 to 6 months out is when you really want to be planting those seeds. And a year at a bigger company, it can take a year.
Oh,
So, yeah. One of the other things you mentioned earlier that I wanted to ask you more about is going from working at a small company to working in a corporate environment. And I know it was your goal to do that. When did you know that it was the right decision?
that's a great question. Honestly, I didn't, like, for a really long time. There are so many, like, pros and cons to both, and not cons, but there are so many pros to both, let's say. And I think it just depends on the company, depends on, your goals. I think that for this corporate job has allowed me to kind of see how all different types of departments work, work with really interesting clients. It's been really fulfilling, creatively, but also it's turned on kind of my analytical brain. And it's also allowed me to kind of fulfill one of my dreams, which is to manage my own team. Or manage people, which I really love and have really realized that, yeah, it really fills my cup. And so I think that's probably when I knew that, like, okay, I'm on the right path, is, yeah, really working with more people, working with a lot more, like, different kinds of people, and having access to all these different brains and creatives, but then also getting to step into this new role of hopefully being a mentor to others, but if not, managing them and hopefully helping them in their career.
I have no doubt that you are mentoring and making a difference in the lives of the people you're managing. And I know a lot of people who listen to this show, they're at these pivotal moments in their careers where they're thinking about, making a change, maybe taking a risk and jumping into something new. And I think it's reassuring. Like one of the components of what you just said is like you learned about all of these, like probably all of these jobs even you didn't know existed, right? How different companies work. And yeah, I think that it just really opens up your world. And like you said, there are benefits of working in corporate and also working in smaller work environments. And sometimes it's like the time in your life you prefer one over the other. But I
Totally.
think that's a really great benefit to call out about the big workplaces is you just get exposed to so much more.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
If you could go back and tell like early career Sarah a piece of advice or anything, what would you tell her?
So if I had to go back and tell early career Sarah, or just younger Sarah starting out, like, some advice, it would be to not work so hard. And I know that sounds crazy, but you don't have to work a million hours in a day to be successful or to be smart or to be good at your job. You don't have to grind. You're allowed to take breaks. You can go for a walk at lunch, take that lunch hour, and when you do that, you give yourself more opportunity to think and, like, just be, and that's when the big ideas come to you. And you don't have to I don't know, prove anything to yourself. I work from home and I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, if I'm not glued to my laptop, somehow I'm failing or I'm letting someone down. Like, no, like, take a step back. Working harder doesn't mean working smarter. So take a break and don't force yourself. If you're having a slump at 3 p.m., maybe you get up and go for a coffee and then come back and reset, And so I think just giving yourself permission, you're an adult. Like, giving yourself permission to find what works for you and your groove at work and figuring that out and taking breaks and, you know, giving yourself that grace, I think is really important and will honestly, I think, make you shine.
Yes. I One of my first managers first managers when I moved into tech, I was going on vacation shortly after I'd started this new job and I said to her, "Oh, well, I'll take my phone with me though, my company phone, you know." And she was like, "No, you won't. Absolutely not." And she
Yes.
said, "I won't have my phone with me on vacation. I absolutely don't want you to have your phone on vacation." And she said, well rested employees, happy employees are better workers. And I fully believe that. And in order for you to perform at your best, you need to take breaks and you need to fully disconnect. And it's what you said about you'll have your best ideas, I think is how you worded it. It's true. That's when you have them and you can't have those creative spurts, those great ideas when you're tired and burned out all the time.
Totally. And I remember I was going on my honeymoon and I said to my manager, I was like, look, I'm not going to say this to everybody, but like, I want you to know that like, I have my phone on me. If something happens, like, just call me or just like WhatsApp me, like plugging meta there, but just like, I'm here, whatever you need. Don't feel like you can't reach out to me. And she said to me, she's like, Sarah, by doing that, you're setting a bad example for the people that you manage because then they're going to go on holiday and they're going to think that they have to do the same thing. So in order to be a good manager, you need to show the women that work for you and the people that work for you. It just turns out that I manage women, but you have to show the people that you manage that they can take breaks and unplug and that you trust them too. And so that's what it took, honestly, for me to be like, okay, yeah, like phone is off. Everyone is set up for success. I've done the best that I can. They're all brilliant. They're going to be fine. Like, who do I think I am thinking I need to be there? And hopefully I'm a good enough manager that life will go on without me and I'll come back feeling rested and good to go.
And your manager's leadership, that is a perfect example of how management values trickle down because she said that to you. And then now you have those expectations for your team. And like she said, your team sees you doing this, so they're going to do the same thing. Because I think the opposite is also true, where if your manager's taking their phone on vacation, if they're always on, they're always available, then you do feel like you have to model that same behavior.
Totally. And it's also, she goes on vacation and trusts me to make big decisions. And it's also teaching me to level up too, and preparing me for more career growth and which I love. Like I love knowing that she's hanging and knows that like she doesn't have to worry. Yeah.
I feel like your manager needs to teach a management course. She
Queen,
sounds amazing.
you should have her on the show next. Honestly.
Yes, seriously, I should.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, I have to ask this next question because my favorite topic is storytelling, and you went through the Unleash program at a time when you were really figuring out how to talk about yourself and your value. So, how has storytelling actually shown up in your career since then?
I love that. Yes. Honestly, I took the Unleash program at just the perfect time. And right after it, I got into the business of storytelling. I work with creators who, tell their stories online. I work with brands to help them tell their stories. And I myself use storytelling on the daily with my team, my clients, in order to really, you know, make sure that I'm resonating with people. It not only builds relationships, but it also helps people remember the things that you're saying. And so it was really funny because I was thinking about this morning. I was brought on, HR asked me to join their onboarding session. So every week or every couple of weeks, they have these onboarding sessions with new hires, and they ask an employee to come on and talk about, their experience and how the principles of Viral Nation relate to them and how they kind of embody them in their work. And so what I talked about this morning was the principle of, relationships being everything at Viral Nation. I've kind of touched on it already, but I told this story about a couple weeks ago where I was working on this report. We were end of year, we were doing reporting, and our business intelligence team, we really rely on them for the reports, of course, because they're analyzing all the data and coming to different conclusions that then, we work with the strategy team and creative team to kind of tell the full story of the campaign or the project that we've been working on. And I read something, it was, a lot of numbers, and I really had no clue what it meant. And I have to know because, we're going in, we're presenting to the client. They have questions. I want to make sure that I understand. So report was due end of day, and our work day ends at 6, and it's 5:59. I kid you not. And I'm freaking out, and I call one of the analysts who has now become, a really good friend and coworker. And I said to him, I'm so sorry, but do you have a minute just to explain this to me? Can we just talk it through so that I understand and I can verbalize it? And he said, okay, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. And I was like, I hope it's okay. And 5 minutes later, he calls me back and he says, sorry, Sarah, I was just heading out the door, but I'm here now. Let's chat. And I'm like, the man was heading out the door. He was going for a drink with a friend, and he closed the door, took off his boots, sat down at the table, and called me back. And it didn't take very long. It took 10 minutes, but chatted through whatever, can't even remember what the question was, put my mind at ease, figured it out, signed and sealed, delivered the wrap report. Everything was great. And it just showed me that, we really are all in it together, and, how grateful I was for the team. And now going back to this morning, I'm telling this story, and I'm telling them that, it's not going to be easy every day. I'm not going to lie to them and say, there are days that are a lot harder, and where, we were at work at 6:15 instead of 6. But just having that interaction and knowing that I could rely on my team like that was so important. And I could see, the new hires, something changed in them. And I could see that they really they understood, and that they didn't just think, oh yeah, okay, relationships, great. They could feel kind of the energy and the dynamic and the work environment that they were entering into. And you could see kind of this excitement and aura of peace that kind of was being felt throughout all of us. And so that felt really special. And I left that meeting feeling like hopefully, I made an impact, and that not only did they feel more at ease, but they knew that they could come to me. If it's 5:59 and you need something, I'm here too. So that really just, again, showed me just the power of storytelling. And yeah, I don't know how to say it other than the energy that it creates and the momentum that it builds, and just the real life connections and trust that comes out of it, the authenticity.
Yes. I love that you mentioned trust, because there's such a big difference in that moment, that experience you had, between saying, we have a very collaborative work environment where we all support each other. And
Yes.
then saying what you did, and saying, one example of that is, and then telling this actual real story, this real experience that happened. It does. I feel like I can picture the faces of the people listening, and them kind of being like, oh yeah, yeah. And then hearing the story and being like, oh, though this is real. This is what I can expect from the people around me. And also, for them, it shows, this is how we show up, right? At this company, everyone shows up this way. Everyone shows up for each other, and we succeed as a team.
Totally. And the relatability too, because we've all
Mm,
been there. We've all been there
yes.
with, what the fish is this? I have to get this assignment in, or this report is due, and am I screwed? Do I have to make it up? And so everyone could relate. And I think that feeling that they could relate to the emotion that is like that uncertainty of being like, am I all alone here? Am I screwed? How do I move forward? And also the emotion of like knowing that someone's got your back. And he didn't say anything either. He's this like such a humble man. And we were at our company offsite this past weekend. And I said to I was having a drink with him and his boss. And I said to his boss, like, I don't know if you know this, but he saved my butt a couple weeks ago with that report we were building. Of course I didn't know. He would never say anything. I'm like, so yeah.
Another great example of how stories can help us advocate for other people. Like now you have this story that you shared it with someone else, and it now like now his manager knows about something like the way he's contributed. And again, it's so different to give a specific story like that, a specific example, rather than being like, "Oh, he's great. He's always so good to work with." And it's like, "Oh yeah, like that person's not going to remember that the next day." But when you tell that story about how he literally saved you, stayed, took his boots off when he was heading out the door, sat down, explained something to you, made sure that you had all the information you needed to put the client's mind at ease, all of a sudden now he has a story that he's going to remember.
100%.
Oh, so good. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. I think it's helpful to hear, sometimes storytelling gets this reputation for being like a fluffy, nice to have, but can actually be a really strategic and impactful skill that you can use in your everyday life, like you just shared. So thank you.
100%. And I really do think that I think that I'm really good at working with clients. And I think that that is kind of the superpower to it all because I was so nervous and I constantly, and I would be sweaty and bright red. And I think that leaning into storytelling and the way that you taught me to allowed me to feel more confident and also be more vulnerable because no one knows your story better than you do. You're just talking about what's happened to you. You're talking about your experiences, and learning how to use that is, I don't know, it's beautiful and it is. It's not fluffy. It's empowering and it's important and it resonates with people.
It really does. And you've talked about how a big part of your role is building relationships. And I think especially in those situations where, you work with a team or a group of people at another company like you do consistently, it's more than just talking about the work you're doing, right? There's always going to be this added element of having a personal connection. And so much of that is built through stories and sharing your stories and also creating space, I'm sure, for them to share theirs.
Yes, and asking questions, like asking people questions so that they feel like they can share too. Yes, agreed.
I know there are a lot of women listening right now who might be, early in their careers, feeling stuck, maybe wanting to pivot like you did, or just trying to figure out that next move. So, based on your journey so far, what advice would you give to other women who are trying to build careers that they're also proud of?
My number one piece of advice would be to seek female mentorship. Seek mentorship in your life. Take the Unleash course. Like ask, and I don't mean that to pluck you, like I ask people for help and ask women for help and, you know, ask them to be your mentor. And if you have questions, go to them and people want to help. Like I'm here saying how excited I am to, be supporting the people that I manage. And you don't have to go you don't have to do it alone. And it's rough out there. Like, let me tell you, but there's a lot of work to be done. I think, seeking that mentorship will help you advocate for yourself, will help you find the words to advocate for yourself, and will help you build confidence. It's not just having someone to talk at you, it's someone who you can bounce ideas off of, someone that you can lean on, you can ask questions. You can say, I want to say this. I'm looking for this promotion. Like, do you think this sounds good? How would you approach it? And chances are the mentor is also going to learn a lot from you as well and your ideas. And yeah, like I said, it's rough out there. So just don't let the bastards get you down, just keep on keeping on and, stay grounded and rooted in your confidence and just really, really believe in yourself, like radically believe in yourself.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I honestly, it sounds so simple, but it's like just ask for help because you're right. I mean, so many people actually really want to mentor. And I think, like, I know for myself, I get a lot of value in knowing that, or a lot of satisfaction when I see my experience helping somebody else. So I think, and I think most of us feel that way. But oftentimes, especially when we're going through something difficult, our instinct is to turn inward and to not share. But when you
Yeah,
find those people you can trust, those mentors you can trust, that's exactly who you should lean on. And they will want you to lean on them so they'll want to support you and help you in those moments when you're making a big decision or you need support for whatever reason.
totally. And I feel like we live in this like very individualistic society, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like there are so many women who have like come before you and have done this and have so many interesting and important experiences to share. And so lean on that, like learn from them. Yeah, you don't have to start from the bottom. They built the foundation. So take advantage.
Yes. Oh my gosh, such good advice. Okay, last question for you. When you think about this chapter of your career, what are you most excited about?
Honestly, the future kind of feels unknown still. I've always just kind of said like one day at a time, one day at a time, and things have worked out. But I am excited to just continue to, like I said, like learn from others, continue to grow, and hopefully continue to grow as a leader and a mentor, but also just, I don't know, become better every day and more creative and more thoughtful and not burn out while doing it.
Yes. Okay, I have to say, just on like a personal note, and someone who has just seen you grow over the last 2 years, like you're when you told me that you were a people leader, that you were managing people, I was just like, of course you are. It just makes so much sense because I feel like that is who you are at your core. So first of all, you have all of the like tactical skills of being incredibly organized and detail oriented, but then you also just have always had this passion for people, for relationships, for seeing other people succeed. And it just makes so much sense. And Sarah, like I just have loved watching you grow and even just having this conversation with you today and hearing the way you're sharing advice, like all the growth you've experienced. It makes me so happy when I think back to 2 years ago and you being in the Unleash program and how you just continued to blossom and bloom since then. It's so beautiful and congratulations.
Thank you, Priya. And thank you for seeing me 2 years ago and again today and just, seeing my potential and believing in me because I think that's everything, right? Is to have people in your corner who believe in you even when you're unsure. And so thank you. And thank you for having me on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, it was so great to have you. This is such a great conversation. And I know that a lot of the women listening are going to hear pieces of themselves in your story too. So thank you for just being open, honest, and sharing all of your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much.
And to everyone listening, I hope this episode reminded you that there is no one right path, that your story is still unfolding. If you love this episode, take a screenshot, tag us on LinkedIn or on Instagram. Let us know your biggest takeaway. I love hearing from you. And until next time, remember your story is the one thing you have that no one else has. I'll see you next week on Unleash Your Voice.